All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our second part of our LAU plan discussion that we started last month. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Self-situated here. And I want to turn on the chat just in case. All right. So as I said, we are going to continue with our discussion of the LAU plan, part 2. Our community agreements, as always, just the same, that we're all going to trust good intentions. We'll speak freely, bring your identity. We may not answer all the questions, but we will get to it. And I heard this quote this last week, and I thought it was very good. I wanted to share. It said, diversity is being invited to the party, but inclusion is being asked to dance. That was a very good way of looking at diversity and inclusion, which is something we deal with all the time. So there's that. And then our blueprint for success, as always, we are still talking about that first half of our chart, being prepared and preparing our educators to work with our students. And then we're answering this question again: what is the LAU plan and how does my district start or update one? The note taker, again, I will put that link in the chat. If you will, please go in and sign in. And all of our links shared in the PowerPoint today will be on that note taker as well. All right, so last month at the end, I shared links to several different LAU plans, both in Missouri and from other states. Hopefully you got a chance to look at that. And I wanted to give you some opportunity to share what you found in those, what you liked, if there are any questions you have about things you saw in them. And we'll work in groups here in a little bit by like-sized districts to discuss and talk about your own plans. I provided a template that's on the note taker as well. And again, this is kind of the outline that is described by the federal government. You have to talk about your educational approach, how you're identifying students, how you're assessing them, the services you offer, how you're staffing and what resources you offer, how you transition students out of the program and monitor them, and then how you allow them to participate in other programs, and then how you evaluate your program. And the link at the bottom of the page here goes into more detail for each of those areas. We talked a little bit about the purpose of Title III, which is basically making sure that our English learners and migrant and youth have English language proficiency so that they can meet the same standards all students are expected to meet. And then we talked about the purpose of having a district plan. It is a legal responsibility under ESSA. It's part of the Civil Rights Act and Equal Education Opportunities Act that makes sure that we fulfill those federal requirements to provide the best educational opportunities for our English learners. And we do that by meeting this requirement of having a plan review annually. So the core EL program per federal law must be effective, based on effective approaches and methodologies. It has to be something that you have a selected program model or models. You have to have a way you're implementing. You have to list your certified and qualified staff. You have to talk about the frequency and duration of your services you're providing. You have to list your curriculum and resources and materials and what program that will be used in the program model that you're implementing. These are the program models that we have currently listed for Missouri under the core data. There are 2 pages here: structured English immersion, content-based ESOL, pull-out, sheltered, resource room, newcomer, co-teaching, EL coaching, ELD as a content course, dual language, and early and late exit programs for transitional bilingual. These are not the only things you can use, but these are what we have identified. If you have another approach that you want to try, we try to fit it into one of these areas and make it kind of fit with program. But it has to be, again, has to be a proven model or something that you can demonstrate that it will be effective in meeting the needs of the students. And it will need to be written into your plan. And that's why I've provided those here. A lot of what we're doing with our allow plans is ensuring achievement for our students. So you have to describe how your local agency is supporting their efforts to meet the needs of your English learners, talking about academic supports to students and their families. This one is important. Your LEA is required to have a core EL program. Allow, that's based on the Lau versus Nichols case. That's required whether or not you receive title funds. So I've heard people say before, but we don't get Title III funds. It doesn't matter. It's a federal requirement to have a core program or plan for a program in place. All federal grants, including Title I and III, must be supplemental to that core EL program. So you have to have it in place, whether or not you receive those title plans. The staff has to be paid out of state or local funds only. It can't be paid out of the title funds. So that's, again, it's part of your core program. And all EL students levels 1 to 4.7 must be provided a core EL program. So you have to have a plan in place. If they're 4.0, you still have to have a plan in place for how you're serving them. And they must be served by either an EL teacher, qualified teacher who's trained in EL strategies. Paraprofessionals can be used, but only as a supplemental layer. So those are all things from federal regulation. If you have an EL teacher who is overseeing services provided by a classroom teacher, kind of like that coaching model. So a lot of our low incidence schools are in this situation. They don't have an EL teacher, or they have someone that's overseeing. You have to have a plan in place for what you're going to be doing. And you have to have professional development for those teachers. And it can't be just a one day or isolated, or you can't consider your WIDA access training as your PD. It has to be PD to help the student, the teacher become more qualified to work with the students. So you have to also have professional development, and you make sure the aides are working under the direct supervision of a teacher, not the sole. They're not solely responsible for teaching units of study. And that's something we deal with a lot. Also, 100% of your English learners are to be correctly identified, assessed, reported, provided services, and all federal EL programming compliance requirements are met, which means you have to do the home language survey, you have to assess within 30 days of enrollment, you have to notify parents, you have to develop an individualized plan, maintain a way of tracking student performance, administer the access test, and then maintain a way of monitoring students for the 2 years after they have exited the program. And your program has to follow federal and state guidelines for reclassification and exiting and monitoring. You'll assess your program annually to make sure your students are making progress, which includes your alternate students. You're looking at to make sure that students are not placed in programs more than 1 year below their age appropriate grade level. You're implementing specific criteria to make sure that you're not putting them in special education or speech services without the proper criteria to place them there. And grading and retention are not based on their lack of English proficiency. So those are all things that we look at. All states are required to implement a language development standards for English learners, and Missouri uses WIDA, so that needs to be mentioned in your plan. And if you receive Title III funds, you must pay for professional development for your teachers, principals, administrators, and other school leaders. So you have to have a plan in place for those things as well. You also have to talk about how you're going to reach out to parents and families of the English learners and promote community engagement. So that has to be part of your plan. And also how you are going to communicate with them, what process you're using for translation and interpretation services. Those should also be included in your plan. Also, you might want to mention something about non-public schools if you have those in your area and how you're going to be working with them. And this gives you some guidance on that. So I'm giving you all of that information up front. You have the link to these slides in also in the note taker, so you can refer back. I'm going to try to put you into some groups and let you discuss here in a little bit based on the number of English learners you have. Or let's see, I don't know how many people we have here today. Let's 10. We may just be in one big group since we have so few. Well, we had several signed up, but fewer here. So I think I'm going to get us started out here by asking if you looked over some of those other districts' plans, what did you notice that you liked? What questions do you have? What concerns do you have? And how can I help you get started? So I'm going to stop talking and let you ask your questions, and we'll start from there. So I'll pull up some of these. I'll show you where there's the link to today's slides. And if you scroll on down, here are the sample LAU plans. I created a folder that contains several different states. So we have several different states LAU plans and other districts LAU plans that you're welcome to look at if you hadn't had a chance to look at those. Just trying to find Oklahoma's as far as ones that I think are very well done. And that was one of my favorites. See it off the top of my head. So did anyone see anything in one of these other districts' plans that they found interesting or that they want to ask about, or your own plan that you want to ask about? You can see in this district's plan, they start out with definitions, which is good that you have those. They've talked about how they identify their students, the eligibility criteria, how they're coded. They broke it down how you put them in the system for coding and the process for coding the students. It also gives you links to the coding. And I think this one was Troy in Missouri. Their LIEP, their plan for implementation. Something I want to say about this, only list the ones that you're willing to provide in your district. You don't have to list all of them that are available in Missouri. Just be specific to your district and what your district is going to offer. Because if you're listing it here, someone may decide that they want that for their students. And if you're not willing to offer it, it shouldn't be listed. So one thing about our LAO plans is they need to be specific to your school district. And often I'm seeing like a cookie cutter. This is one that you've gotten from someone and you just copy and put your name in it, and everything seems to flow and work and to meet the state requirements, but it doesn't necessarily meet the needs of the students in your district. So if you have only certain languages or you have only a small population, you need to address that and how you're going to meet the needs. Be specific to the needs of your district and what your district is going to do. So tailor it to fit your school district, not just that cookie cutter. So again, when you're talking about the staff and the support, spell out exactly who you have, your student to teacher ratio, how you're going to work with it. You can even go so far as to name the teachers if you're going to change it annually, what teachers are working at what school and how many students, and you could put their schedules in here even. And some districts have done that. And then what curriculum you're using. And then the principles for working with them. This is a good help for classroom teachers, offer what they can do to offer support. And that's why I included this one. It was very well done. It has a lot of information that you might need. Avoiding unnecessary segregation. So how are you dealing with serving students from different schools? Not busing them from one place to another, how you're addressing students with disabilities, who works with them. And then this is a flow chart from DESE, which is fine to put in there. And then again, how you work with students who opt out, whose parents opt out of services, you're still required to work with them. So you have to mention how you're going to do that. The monitoring and reclassifying. And they've got the whole process in there. So how you code them, guidelines for monitoring them. Then like the last part is effectively evaluating the program. They've gone through all of that stuff. They even have our little green chart in there, which will soon hopefully be updated. And then have a checklist for self-monitoring in here also. So if you're going to be looking for one that you want to pattern yourself after, or that you can look at, this is a good one to look at. This one's talking about, this section is on talking with your parents, and we have the appendixes that have the language use survey and some of their sample letters. And an opt-out form. And then their individual student report. And how they grade with a rubric. And then a monitoring form. So this one includes pretty much everything that you might need. So if you're looking for one that kind of fits all the criteria. This one, that's the Lincoln County R3, has done an exceptional job. And that would be one I would direct you to using. And all these others have some good points. Again, one thing that you'll notice when you look at each one of them is they've personalized them to fit the needs of their school district. And that's what I am trying to point everyone to doing, is making sure you personalize them to fit your district. I'm going to go ahead and go back over some of the things that are in our WIDA updates here. WIDA has a survey they've put out where they want to hear from you about the new standards. And if you take the survey, you're in a drawing for a $25 Amazon gift card. So if you want to click on that and take the survey, there's a chance for that. They also are going to start their field testing. So if you have questions about field testing, they have kind of an automated CAD do that will field your questions and answer your questions for you. But they're also having a webinar on December 1st. You can find that on the webinars page in your secure portal. Also, the retired documents, the old WIDA assessment, WAPT and kindergarten WAPT, are going to have an overview for reference in case you get an older student that comes in that took one of these assessments. If you need how to compare the documents, they've provided kind of a supplemental document so you can have access to that and make those comparisons. So that's new. And then there's this flyer that talks about all of our self-paced workshops that we offer this year. And all of our facilitated workshops are already taking place, so we can no longer sign up for those, but those self-paced will be available clear to the end of August, the 1st of September of 2023. Also, make sure that you are doing your assessment training through WIDA. As of September 1st, it reset, so you need to go in and take the assessments and make sure you have that up to date. And last month, I told everyone that we have now a LinkedIn page, and this is the link to that page. If you want to click on that, I've transferred a lot of the things we had in Edmodo over to LinkedIn, and I've been putting notifications and things in that. And then always check our curriculum calendar from the DESE website for updates to curriculum PD opportunities. The Federal Programs Conference is coming up November 14th and 15th, and we invite you to attend that. We have ELD opportunities there at the Federal Programs Conference. And under the check-ins under professional development, you can find our check-in meetings under professional development on the ELD webpage. It says still on there 21, 22, but it is updated to the new listing. Our webpage person has resigned and it hasn't been updated yet, but it does have the current link. So even though it says 21, 22, it has the 22, 23 information linked there if you click it. But in November, we're going to have one more discussion on the LAU plans. We'll have a speaker from MSU that wants to talk to us about further developing our LAU plans and some opportunities for you. We don't meet in December. And in January, February, in response to some questions from last month, we're going to be talking about how to determine access growth from year to year. And hopefully I can get someone from MSIP to come in and talk to us about the EL subgroups and then performance on MAP and EOC. that kind of all ties together with district, with student growth from year to year. All right, so I've talked, hopefully I gave you some time to think a little bit. Does anyone have any questions about your allow plans that you'd like to ask? It's a free space, a good time to ask. All right. Stephanie, which one? Oh, you got it. Never mind. Okay. The allow plan that I was talking about was this Lincoln County. I'm guessing that's what you were asking. You guys are very quiet. This is going to be a short meeting. Would you like to be in breakout rooms to talk with each other or in a large group to discuss? Either way works for me. Since this is a federal requirement, that's why I listed several different states guides, like this one is from Kentucky. And you'll find that they are all the same, no matter which state you're in, because it is federal guidance that we're following. So it doesn't really matter which state you look at. We all have I'm not sure why it would say that. You should have access to all of these documents. Sure. I should be able, this one again is from Kentucky. You double click them. This one is here in Missouri, the Sollard Schools. Some of them are very short. This one's from Oregon. So you should be able to access them. I'm not sure where this one was from. But again, you'll find that they're all very similar. This one's starting out with a table of contents and then moves into, again, it starts with definitions. This one has a lot of, sorry for scrolling quickly, links to other pages. Some of them are better written than others. Kentucky's. So Kentucky has a state allow plan. But again, it's set up very similar. This one, New Hampshire. Again, it's going to be the same setup. I tried to pick states that were also WIDA states for the most part, so that you'd have that information. Some of them have a little bit different layout. This one goes into talking about the job descriptions of teachers. I liked that, so I included this one. And it went a little more in depth in professional development. But as I said, you'll find that they all discuss that same format. So you can read through each of the different ones and get some different ideas of things that you might want to be including in yours, but you follow the same format. Many of them start with the definitions or the legal background of why there is a allow plan. Age appropriate again there in that one. Um, the way this one. Civic schools. So my hope was that you would be able to pick out that some of these are not as well developed as others. Some of them really spell out the program. Some of them are a little bit lacking in some areas. So when a parent or an educator or your school board should pick this up, they should be able to tell exactly how you plan to work with teachers. And actually, having a loud plan is a good thing because you should submit it to your school board. And after your school board reads through it and approves it, then it becomes like your district regulation, your district rules. And things that are said in this loud plan should be what's carried out in your district because it is then school board policy. So if something comes up and it's not being done, you can say, this is part of our loud plan and it was approved by our school board. So we should be following this plan. So if you have in here about like student to teacher ratio, which is a big thing, and that's part of your LAU plan, then it should be followed. That should be the law of your district. So make sure that's a good reason to make sure you take time to prepare it and make it fit for your district so that it says what you want your district to follow. And again, you send it to your school board and have them approve it, and then it should be followed by your district. This is the one that's from Oklahoma. This is one of the ones that I like. They've gone so far is to give you a map of the city and tell you the percentage of languages in the different areas of the city. I thought that was really cool. So they've really broken it down and given you a linguistic profile of their district. And it's breaking down how they involve all members of their community, their language advisory committee, how that works, which is something that also should be included, how your parent advisory committee, they're calling it a language advisory committee, superintendent's diversity council. So they've really broken theirs apart and have a lot of involvement. But what works in their district, they're spelling it out so that everyone knows what's going on in their district. So it needs to be specific. I can't repeat that enough. It needs to be specific to your district, what you're doing and what's in place. And it needs to be evaluated each year to see if you need to change anything, especially if your if your students aren't showing growth, then we would expect you to go revisit your LAU plan and over that at the end of that 3-year period where we're doing our ELD progress indicator. If your students haven't shown growth, we'll want to look at your LAU plan to see if there's anything in it that needs to be changed or updated, or maybe another direction taken, or something that's not meeting the needs of your students. But this Oklahoma one is another one that's very well written. Although it is lacking a few things too. That's why I've included so many different ones, because a lot of them, there are things that are lacking, but a lot of them have some really good personalized information in them as well. So like this one tells you how they're breaking down their students. But they all have basically the same information. And this one has a large appendix that I liked with lots of information that proved helpful in more than one language. I thought might be great for some of you to have. That was this Lao Plan 1 here. This one was from Ozark, another one that's very well done. But the more information that you can give to like classroom teachers, so that they can use this as well. And it would be great if you could also have this posted on your district website, so it's available to anyone who wants to look at it. This one, Central DeWitt Community School, not remembering what state it was. But it's not as appealing to look at, but it has a lot of great information in it. Checklists. This one's very pretty, Fayette. It's good also, if you notice here, there was a team that worked together to create it. If you can have a team working together to create your Lao plan, that's great. Apparently, they've also had their communications department help with the publishing it to make it look nice. But again, it has all the parts that we've already discussed. The type of programs they offer, and you can see they offer 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's all for their district. And I just got back from attending the CCSSO meeting, and that was one thing that at the federal level they were discussing, that a lot of districts will offer too many programs in their Lao plan that they don't specify or hone in on the needs of the students. And they offer all of these things that they're not going to really have need for. So make sure you're specific on what your district is going to utilize. So this one has ELD, sheltered, content-based, and structured immersion. And that's what we probably find in most of our Missouri schools as well, are those four. So if you're only going to offer those four, only list those four. Meaningful access, professional learning again as required, what assessments they're giving, the exit criteria, monitoring, program evaluation, communication with parents, same things in each one. And Orange County. This one is California. Oh, this one was in PowerPoint. So they actually had this PowerPoint on their website to talk about what their Lao plan is. So theirs was in PowerPoint version. Basically the same information, but a different format. But it walks through all of those different parts and gives links to all the sections of theirs. And then some ways of working with the students. And then we looked at Lincoln counties already. This last one is from Maine. And they call theirs a resource guide for English learners. but it's basically the same thing. These are essentials of the LAO plan. Identification. Reporting, parent notification and rights, enrollment and their immunization, special education, programming, the committees they have, staff, how they're staffing, materials and resources, their assessment program, how they're exiting, how they're monitoring, how they evaluate the program, and then how they use their data to make decisions. And then appendices. Same. So they have all the legal history in their appendices. Some of the administrative letters. And then here you go. This one I also has crafting a LAO plan, what it is. There's steps for writing yours. And then some just guidance there. So as you see, they're almost all the same. Some are just better developed than others. All right. Was really hoping that you guys would have some questions or have some conversation, things you wanted to ask questions about your LAO plans. And give you an opportunity to work together with some things you're encountering. If there are no questions, I guess we will adjourn. You have the information. I will put the link. Here's the link to the note taker again. And as I said before, if you want the slides, it says today's slides underneath where you sign in. You can click on that and have access to all the slides information that I shared at the beginning. And then further on down where it says LAO plans, this first one is the outline from the federal government. The second one is that template that I provided last time. This sample links are all those pages I was just sharing with you. And then there's just some federal guidance listed after that. The sample template, I can look at that real quick with you. Yeah. So this kind of walks you through how you can put yours together. It's in chart form, so you can put all the information in this chart, and then from that, you could leave it in this format if you liked it, or you can use this to turn it into your paragraphs. So you have identifying the students, the description of what it is, what the state requires, what you're doing in your school system, and then any notes. I shared this before and someone has put their notes in it. So if you will, make a copy. The next part is resources. You have language use survey. For the first part, the resources, language use survey, family interview questions, your flow chart, the WIDA screener information, parent notification samples. So those are all things that might go along with this identifying that you could add. And then effective program reflects the needs of English learners in your district. So again, this would be the description, the state provisions, school system notes and documentation. So the description, and this is the state requirement, and then some things that you can do within your school system. And newcomer services, if you offer those, description of procedures for communicating with parents. You could have an EL programming one pager or an EL program handbook that comes out of this. And then this next section talks about personnel, some questions to answer there. You could have EL add-on certification checklist or the qualifications needed for your positions in your district, whatever you require of your teachers. Then aligning the instruction, some information on that. Providing authentic assessments, our WIDA assessment list there. And then some resources. And then some questions that you might want to answer, and then how you're going to support. You might want to also include information on how you work with immigrants, and that's this document. So you can utilize this to help you kind of lay out the framework of your own WOW plan, or just start writing from scratch. Again, next time, if you have started a WOW plan, if you use this template and use some of these other district plans to start working on one, bring them with you. We can work together through them. Or if you want to contact me individually, you can send me an email, and I'm happy to look over. Although I will say I've been really busy the last 2 weeks. So if you've emailed me anything in the last couple of weeks, I'm a little behind. But things will start slowing down in the next few weeks. So hopefully I'll be able to help you. But I'm happy to look through and WOW plan if you want to share it with me and get some input. Or anyone that's on our call that is in the same size and district, I'm sure we can pair you up with someone that would be happy to offer some assistance. I actually made a map of our state. Let's see if I can find it real quick here. That I have had approval to share. Whoops, I think I'm in the wrong drive. I made a map of Missouri and where our students are as far as demographics and the layout of our state. Give me just a moment here and I'll find that. So this can give you an idea of where our student population is. There is a legend at the bottom. So anything that's purple, they have less from 50 to 100 students. The teal is 100 to 200, green is 200 to 500, and so forth. But anything that's gray has less than 50 students. So you can see the majority of our state has less than 50 students. But when you contact me, or if you contact me, I can tell you, like if you're a purple region, I can tell you another area that has a similar population. If you want to get a hold of them and compare WOW plans with them, I'm sure we can find someone that would be willing to collaborate with you and talk about your WOW plan and their WOW plan and see what you're doing to kind of get some ideas and have some collaboration in that respect. But hopefully this will be up on our website soon as well, to give you a better idea of where students are in our state. I've actually even broken it down with regional information here so that it tells you approximately how many students are in each area and the student to teacher ratios. And so like this region 1 over here at Kansas City, that whole area has over 12,000 students, but only 318 teachers who are serving 370 buildings. So it gives you an idea of, how our student bodies are, and also drives home the reason why we need LAO plans in our districts, so that we have a plan of action on how to work with these students and serve the needs, especially in some of our low incidence areas, where we have not very many teachers for the number of students that we have. Again, hopefully this will be information that's coming soon on our webpage when we can get it published. But if you're interested in this map, I'm happy to share it with you as well. It might give you some, again, someone to collaborate with, or someone that you can see has a like number as your district. You guys are a quiet bunch. All right, well, if you have no questions, or there's nothing that you would like to discuss, then I'm gonna I'll call the end of our meeting, and I'll hang around for a little bit if you want to ask any questions of me off camera. But we'll call this the end of the meeting, and please contact me if you have any questions or if you have any needs, and I'm happy to help you out. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.